So DJI just released their brand new drone, the Mini 4K, and you might be familiar with the looks of this, especially if you're holding on to your Mini 2 for dear life. So what makes this so special, who is it for, and should you buy it? Let's find out. Now, the DJI Mini 2 was more or less discontinued when we had the release of the Mini 3, as both were sitting in the same price range, and later we also had the Mini 2 SE, which was basically a downgraded version of the Mini 2 with 2.7K resolution. So I would say this is more or less the rise of the Mini 2 again, but with a different branding. And honestly, Mini 4K, I think the branding is a little bit weird, especially now that we have the Mini 4 Pro, but that's just my thoughts. But at the end, this is a fantastic entry-level drone, so let's take a look at the features. And we also have a new RCN1C controller now, so not the RCN1 but the RCN1C, which we're gonna talk about in a sec. So when it comes to the specs and the features of the Mini 4K, it has a 1/2.3 inch CMOS sensor with 12 megapixels, an aperture of f2.8, a flight time up to 31 minutes. It also shoots 4K up to 30 FPS along with 1080p and 2.7K at 60 FPS, which is similar to the Mini 2. Now when it comes to color profile, the only color profile available on the Mini 4K is normal, so you won't be seeing a D-Log-M or D-Cine-like, but this is also an entry-level drone, so this is something you might want to start out with and then later move over to something like the Mini 3 Pro or the Mini 4 Pro if you want to have more flexibility in post when it comes to color correction and grading. But we also have some automated flight modes, which is really helpful with the Mini 4K. We have quick shots, panorama, one-tap takeoff and landing, and also return to home for safety. So all the basic smart features that will help you when you're out flying for the first time or just want to add some creative shots. But if you want more of those advanced features like active track, waypoints, cruise control, maybe vertical shooting mode for your social media like Instagram, TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you probably want to go for something like the Mini 3 Pro or the Mini 4 Pro, which has a full 360 avoidance system to, you know, basically keep you safe no matter what. But if you're just getting into the hobby and you don't want to spend as much money, maybe you're not sure if this is something you can stay consistent with, the Mini 4K is definitely the best, cheapest and safest entry-level drone to get. Now another thing you want to look at when it comes to buying a cheap entry-level drone, especially for the first time, is also the transmission and the connection between the controller and the drone, because this is like a make or break when it comes to your experience flying a drone for the first time. So in the past we were kind of used to having Wi-Fi in these cheap entry-level drones. So that was one awful experience, and you couldn't really fly that far before your signal was lost. So when they first introduced the Ocusync, it was fantastic. So with the Mini 4K, we do have O2 or Ocusync 2.0. So this has a rated range of 10 kilometers in the US and 6 kilometers in the EU. But I doubt that most people will be getting a drone to fly that far. But what this means is basically that you get a more stable connection. So you're less likely to have interferences when you're out flying, which is giving you a much better flight experience, and it also adds that extra safety. But when it comes to the Mini 4K, which shoots in 4K, it's $299 for this drone standalone. But looking at the image quality here, I would say this looks pretty good considering this being a $300 drone. And for someone that don't need these additional features like tracking, waypoints, cruise control, you know, this might be the perfect travel drone. And when it comes to weight, this is a sub 250 gram drone, so 249 grams, which is also C0 labeled, which means you have less restrictions on where you can fly. Given that you have passed a trust certificate or online training, which is mandatory in a lot of countries, and this is basically an online training course you need to take in order to operate the drone legally. And this test will also allow you to fly drones up to 900 grams like the Air 3 and the Mavic 3 Classic, for example. So even if this is a C0 labeled drone and you don't need a drone license to fly it, as long as it has a camera, most countries do require registration, insurance, labeling, and that you have passed the online training in order to fly this legally. But the good thing about this is that you don't have to take a new test for each country you travel to. The rules are the exact same in most countries, and you can take it in your own language in your own country if that helps you understand, the rules better. But the main rules is that if it has a camera, you would most likely need to register, take the test, and label your drone. Now, when it comes to compatibility, the Mini 4K is backwards compatible when it comes to battery. So the Mini 2 and the Mini 2 SE batteries will be compatible with this drone. So if you want to upgrade from, let's say, the Mini 2 SE, for example, and get the 4K resolution instead, you don't have to buy additional batteries if you have these laying around, which is one of the things I see more of with these DJI products sitting in the same category, like the Mini 3 and the Mini 4 Pro. Both are using the same batteries, and we also see the same thing with the Action 3 and the Action 4. So I think this is a fantastic and the best way to go for DJI because it makes it more affordable for a lot of people looking to only upgrade the main camera or the main device. But we do have a new RC-N1C controller, which is just like the RC-N1. The difference between these two is that the RC-N1C controller only supports the Mini 4K. It's also slightly downgraded from the older one with one less battery, so it's lighter than the RC-N1, but the battery life of this is also shorter. But if you already have the RC-N1 controller, you can also use that with the Mini 4K. Another thing is also that the ND filters from the previous models, like the Mini 2 and Mini 2 SE, will not be compatible with the Mini 4K. So if you want any filters, you will have to buy some new ones. Now, when it comes to the release of this drone, this will only be available through Amazon in the US and EU, and also through Best Buy in the US. So if you want to grab this drone, you will have to go and order it online through Amazon, or you can get it at your nearest Best Buy. The big question is, who is this drone actually for now that we have all these different drones to buy? I would say if you're just starting out, maybe you have a limited budget, or maybe you don't want to spend a lot of money on something you're not sure if you'll end up using. This is going to be the perfect drone to start with. Not only do you get the best and cheapest entry-level drone on the market, but you also get that crisp 4K resolution. And for some people, this might be the only drone you'll ever buy. But I do recommend getting the DJI Care Refresh though, especially if this is your first drone. It's a small addition, but it's well worth it. So because the lack of sensors, there's nothing to protect the drone. So when you fly this backwards or sideways, there is a higher chance of damaging the drone if you fly in tight places, because you don't get these warnings on the screen. So that's also something to consider. And if you happen to have an accident, you will get a replacement unit for a very low cost instead of having to buy a new one, which is fantastic. And honestly, this drone will do the job in most cases. It's not the drone that will rule the airspace between these mini drones that add more competition to those, but it's something cheaper that will still give you a good looking 4K image. Even as a professional drone pilot, you can have this as your backup drone when you just want to capture some moments with your families, for example, and don't want to bring a heavier or more expensive drone. And for $299 US, you get this drone and you get the remote controller and one battery, which is enough to get you started. But there's also the Fly More combo here, which is priced a little bit higher, which will give you even more flight time with 2 additional batteries, so total 3 batteries. And I mean, when you first start flying something like this, you will realize how much fun it is, and you would definitely wish you had more batteries. So there you have the brand new release from DJI, the Mini 4K. Links to everything will be down there in the description below, and I'm also curious to know your thoughts on this drone, so let me know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button, that would be highly appreciated. And with that said, thanks for watching. Bye bye.